What's going on, guys? I'm Tim Kelly. This is Phillies Stoplight here from Yankee Stadium, where the Phillies took 2 of 3 from the Yankees over the weekend. They weren't able to complete the sweep Sunday, even though Otto Kemp had really the game of his life. And it's a cool story, obviously, on top of what's been a really cool story for him this year, to go from an undrafted player to reaching the majors. Just that alone, he has a lifetime of interesting stories to tell. But Sunday, he comes through. He hits 2 home runs. He makes a tremendous play at third base to rob Cody Bellinger of a base hit. So a tremendous day for Otto Kemp. Unfortunately for the Phillies, it wasn't a tremendous day for really everybody else. Nick Castellanos did hit a home run, but had a difficult play in right field. Zach Wheeler really kind of labored uncharacteristically today. Walked 2 batters, hit 3 batters, just was not himself. Carlos Rodon was not necessarily sharp for the Yankees, but sharp enough, and the Phillies ended up falling unable to ultimately get the sweep of the Yankees here. Still, 2 out of 3. It's a pretty good weekend in New York. And we're going to get to some rumors, because really that's what everyone wants to talk about. The first is regarding Eugenio Suárez, who's somebody I've talked about pretty consistently here during trade season, but as of like a week ago, I really thought it seemed unlikely that the Phillies were going to make a serious play for him, and that may still be the case. But John Heyman of the New York Post did report on Friday that the Phillies are one of the teams with interest in Suárez, and then Scott Lauber of the Philadelphia Inquirer reported Saturday morning that the Diamondbacks had someone in attendance, a scout in attendance Friday at Lehigh Valley when Mick Abel pitched. Now, Mick Abel did not pitch well on Friday. He gave up 5 runs over 5 innings. Rob Thompson did say when we asked him that he kind of showed some toughness. Maybe not that he wasn't tough previously, but that even though he was struggling, he kind of battled through it, and that's one of the things the Phillies have wanted to see from him as they've sent him back to AAA and are trying to build him up to the point where he's going to be a really good major league pitcher. Now, whether he's going to be a really good major league pitcher for them or for somebody else remains to be seen, and it's something we'll know within the matter of a few days here, whether it's for a relief pitcher, which is something that's been talked about ad nauseum, whether it's Emmanuel Clase, Johan Duran, Griffin Jax, one of those big guys. I don't think it would be for Ryan Helsley because he's a rental, but who knows? I don't think it would be for David Bednar, but maybe. So Mick Abel's somebody that's like a controllable starter, and interesting for the Diamondbacks in the sense that the Diamondbacks have Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly coming off the books this year. Corbin Burns had Tommy John surgery, so he's going to miss most of 2026, if not all of 2026. So the Diamondbacks need guys that are ready to step in and pitch for them next season. So if the Phillies were to put Mick Abel on the table for Eugenio Suárez, I think that'd be a pretty compelling offer for the Diamondbacks. Now, I don't know exactly how high Abel's ceiling is, but I do think he's going to be a major league starting pitcher. Throws in the high 90s at times. To get that for a rental, as good as Eugenio Suárez has been, he's a rental that's 34 years old. I think that would be a good deal for them. Now, whether the Phillies ultimately pull the trigger on that or choose to divert resources elsewhere, I don't know, because I think Suárez would be a great fit offensively for this team. In my opinion, they've lacked another guy that can come through and hit a 3-run home run, and who's hit 3-run home runs better this season than Suárez? Maybe Schwarber, Judge, and Cal Raleigh, and I don't even know if you can say for sure all 3 of those guys. Suárez has been about as good as any home run hitter in the National League this season, and adding his bat into the middle of this lineup would be huge. The flip side, though, is you have to add his glove. He's not a great defensive third baseman, and you'd have to either put him at third base and find something else to do with Alec Bohm when he comes back, or displace somebody else. And maybe what they would do in this situation is have Suárez play third base and figure out the problem in 2 to 4 weeks, whenever it is that Alec Bohm's ready. He did join the Phillies today in New York, but it sounds like he's still having a little discomfort in that rib. He's not swinging a bat, so Alec Bohm's return is not imminent, and for the Phillies to win the division, have the best seeding going into the playoffs, it would help to have somebody at third base like Suárez in the near future. Now, what happens when Bohm comes back, I don't know, because for as frustrating as Bohm has been at times, this is still certainly somebody that if he's on your team, he's in the starting lineup. It's just a matter of where. The Phillies could shift one of them. I think it would be Bohm just because he has the experience also over at first base. But then you would have to shift Bryce Harper to the outfield, and I just don't think the Phillies are inclined to do that. You could do that and shift Bryce Harper to DH. I don't think Bryce Harper wants to be the DH. I know Bryce Harper likes playing in the field defensively. So my guess is even if you make this trade, Harper isn't moving off of first base. What you could do when Bohm comes back is have Suárez shift to DH and Kyle Schwarber goes out in left field every day. He did play left field Sunday in Yankee Stadium. He made a play out there that was certainly entertaining, if nothing else. And by the way, Friday's game here was just, it was an all-time performance by Kyle Schwarber. Offensively, he's having one of the great seasons in Phillies history. Defensively, though, there are some clear limitations, even in a park like Citizens Bank Park where you're not being asked to patrol a huge amount of space. You still got to make throws home. There's just some limitations. So I don't know that that's necessarily what you want to do, but there's not going to be a perfect scenario here. And would the Phillies be better having to take some lumps defensively in the outfield if it means having a Eugenio Suárez's bat in the middle of their lineup for a couple months? I think so. So if push came to shove, I probably would move Mick Abel for Suárez. I know you don't love to give up a starting pitcher that has 6 years of control for a guy you're going to have for 2 months. I don't fear there's a huge risk that Mick Abel's going to turn out to be like a number one starter, but I do think he'll be a productive major leaguer. But the Phillies have a bunch of guys in their starting rotation that are signed beyond this season. So I think in the quest to win a World Series, if that's a move you have to make to push your chips to the center of the table and eventually have Kyle Schwarber in the outfield in some form, you do it. Now, another option that came up this weekend, Ken Rosenthal, the Athletic, kind of hinted at it Friday, but Francis Romero of Baseball FR, who does a really good job covering Hispanic baseball players, different guys in the majors and around the world, that he's had a few scoops in the past, so I take what he says pretty seriously. And he said Saturday evening that the Phillies were, quote, seriously considering and monitoring Luis Robert Jr. of the White Sox. And Robert's interesting because I think we all pretty much decided a year ago there's just too many red flags here between the fact that he wasn't having a good season last year and that there were injury concerns. Too many red flags to give up a haul for him. At this point, though, he's basically a rental. So while those red flags still exist, he's not having a good year offensively. He is injured quite a bit, including dealing with a groin strain right now. So there's a chance if you trade for him, it just doesn't work out. Whether it's because he's unproductive or healthy or whatever, chance it doesn't work out. It's a lot easier to take that risk and swallow that pill if you're not giving up a top 10 prospect. Now, the White Sox may have their mind on getting a top 10 prospect. I know Bob Nightingale of USA Today reported Sunday that in talks with the Mets, they want to get Mark Vientos. And for as much as Vientos has had a down year, that would be a haul for Luis Robert, who really is a rental at this point. He has $20 million options in his contract for either of the next 2 seasons. The way he's played the last 2 years, the injury history, there's no way, unless he goes on a tear the last 2 months of the season, that those options are getting picked up. So the Mets, in my mind, aren't going to trade Vientos, but it does make me wonder what would the White Sox want in return for Robert in talks with the Phillies. And if it's anything like that, you just walk away. But if you can get him without having to give up what you expect, what you believe to be an impact prospect, if you can give up a single A lottery ticket type guy or 1 or 2 of those guys, I think it would be something worth considering, because at his best, he's somebody that hit 38 home runs 2 seasons ago. He's a right-handed hitter with pop. He can hit 4th in your lineup. He adds that bat at his best. Now, you could trade for him and just play left field with Brandon Marsh, platoon with him, call up Justin Crawford in center field, and you've improved your offense in a significant way. My thought, if you're going to trade for him, because he's been an accomplished player in the past, even though his birthday's next week, he's going to turn 28. It feels like he's been around forever. He's really still pretty young. My thought would be you plug him in center field and see what happens for a few weeks. And if it doesn't go great, then you call up Justin Crawford, assuming you haven't moved him in another trade. You call up Justin Crawford, you shift Robert into a platoon in left field with Brandon Marsh, and you go from there. But I do think if you trade for him, it's the type of deal where you don't give up a ton, and then you give him some leeway. Because if there's ever been a guy where you say, wow, if this guy got the right change of scenery, things could really click, his career could take off again, I think Luis Robert fits that bill. So someone to keep an eye on at the very least. Hopefully by the time you're watching this video, these trade rumors aren't obsolete and Phillies haven't done something else, or whatever the case may be. I should shut up and not take any longer and take that chance. The Phillies, speaking of Luis Robert, are about to head to Chicago. They'll play a 3-game series there. And for as lowly as the White Sox are, they're not quite as bad as they were last year when they were the worst professional team I've ever seen in my life. They're not good, but their pitching this series is actually pretty good. Game 1 of the series, you get Christopher Sanchez against Davis Martin. Martin has a 3.89 ERA. Jesus Luzardo goes in Game 2 against Jonathan Cannon, who's got a 4.48 ERA. And then Taijuan Walker goes in Game 3 against Adrian Hauser, who Adrian Hauser has been a great pickup. He's got a 2.10 ERA. The only red flag I would say, or asterisk I would add there, is that Hauser is going to get traded in all likelihood. And considering this start is scheduled for July 30th, I think there's a very real chance he is not the starter in Game 3 of that series. So if things stand this way, the White Sox have pretty competitive pitching going on the mound in this series, especially given the fact that Cannon's going in Game 2 against Luzardo, who has struggled of recent and is really kind of working things out and trying to get out of his own head in some senses. So you have that. The White Sox are not a good team. This is a club you should go in and take at a minimum 2 of 3 and potentially even sweep in. And that'd be a hell of a road trip if you go to Yankee Stadium and what is now, I learned this half an hour ago, called Rate Field. It was called Guaranteed Rate Field. It's now just called Rate Field, and it's not first rate. I can vouch from people who have been there and told me that. I have not personally been there, but never seemed like much on TV either. So Rate Field is where the Phillies will spend the next 3 days. Then they'll have off on Thursday. Thursday's the trade deadline and should be fun. And then the Phillies come back home for Alumni Weekend. So it's going to be another crazy week for the Phillies one way or another. I do think they're going to add in the bullpen. I think they absolutely need to add. David Robertson made his debut at Lehigh Valley over the weekend, and he'll be a nice addition. This team, though, in my mind, desperately needs another back end of the bullpen, 9th inning, hand the ball to him and turn the lights out behind him, close the bullpen door guy. They need that. They need another big bat, which is why Suárez and Robert Jr. and all these other guys continue to be mentioned with them. Harrison Bader is another guy that is like available and in theory would be an upgrade in center field, even though he's not like a sexy name. He's been around for a long time. You could shift Mars to left field, so that would be interesting. I know I talked about Taylor Ward and Joe Adell. We'll see if the Angels actually move them and what it would take, but those are 2 other right-handed bats in the outfield that intrigue me. So it's going to be a crazy week, and the Phillies have to balance not wanting to gut the farm system with wanting to make the most out of this team where the time is now. I mean, there's no reason to believe in a year or 2 you're going to have a better shot to win a World Series with this current group. So it is an extremely important week for Dave Dombrowski, and we'll be here to cover it all, both on Phillies Stoplight and on Pattison.com.